Obliterating your enemies with devastating umbral magic is one of the most satisfying ways to enjoy your time in Lords of the Fallen. Combining this with the ability to maintain a steady flow of Life-Leech ensures you are a highly resilient scourge of destruction. If you want to play as a vampiric, HP leeching melee caster hybrid that can turn its hand to favour either approach in equal measure, has the ability to dispatch enemies from afar, break stagger bars, and even administer those bloodthirsty grievous strikes, all whilst fulfilling the blood-sucking Lovecraftian vampire aesthetic, and this is the build for you. PhaseShifter here, and thank you for checking out my Undying Umbral Vampire Build. In today's video, we're breaking down what is, in my opinion, one of the best melee caster builds that has a specialism in life leeching at both range and in close quarters combat to keep ourselves sustained. We'll be going over the stats, weapons, armor, rings, pendants, and rune choices that make this build an undying, blood-sucking umbral menace that's difficult to contend with. We cover all things ARPG and FPS on this channel, so if you enjoy games like Lords of the Fallen, consider subscribing to the channel. The community would love to have you. Drop a like if you enjoy the video, and sound off in the comments below with any thoughts and questions. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. In the early game, the main stats to focus on in this build are Inferno and Radiance for damage scaling, and Vitality for survivability. As the build focuses on dual-wielding Bloodlust, we only require 13 points in agility to ensure we can use them. The rest can then go into our main stats. Initially, you'll require around 20 points in endurance to have ample stamina to utilise in the early to mid-game. My advice here would be to get Inferno to around 70 and Radiance to around 50, and then fill the rest in any order of your choosing. You'll gain damage from statting into Radiance and Inferno, and more HP from Vitality. The Orient Preacher and the Orient Preacher Hammer are, as usual, your best choice of starting class and weapon due to the 18 points of radiant damage the class starts with, and the fact it has an absolute beast of a weapon in the early to mid game. For the primary weapon, I am dual-wielding Bloodlust short swords. This choice is underpinned by two reasons. First of all, when delivering a final hit via a melee attack or spell, these swords have a life-leeching effect. Wielding two also stacks this effect. Secondly, the rune slots allow us to use a total of 4 Tummel runes to further enhance our vampiric life-leeching effect when we kill enemies. This weapon also comes with 60 bleed and 60 burn in the status effects department. Combining this with bleed salts further emphasises this effect and also allows us to further lean into the Undying Umbral Vampire kind of look. This can be acquired from the chest in the area where you fight Crimson Rector Percival, and you'll need to complete 2 playthroughs or find a willing friend to drop you a second one to complete this build. For those of you with only one Bloodlust, this build still works, albeit with a slightly diminished return on the life leech. You could try another weapon to dual wield, or go with a shield and some Tummel or Nartan runes for either mana or HP regeneration. The 3 rune slots in this weapon are integral to the functionality of the build. 2 Tummel runes are non-negotiable to further improve our life leeching capabilities. When dual wielding 2 Bloodlust with 2 Tummel runes, we leech around 90 HP per kill. The final rune slot is an agility slot, and you'll have a number of choices here. You could go with Vixis runes for increased bleed build-up, or you could go with Demexus, which increases physical damage whilst dual wielding, Onyx for increased grievous strike damage, or Nelk rune for those choosing to vigor farm. I opt to go for Vixis to maximise how quickly bleed builds up, to stay with the theme of blood and vampires, but all these options are completely viable, folks. In terms of catalysts, the best in slot choice here for this build is the Los Berescu's catalyst. At plus 10, this provides us with exceptional spell power that is just shy of 800, and it also has A tier Radiance and Inferno scaling with 5 spell slots, a simply superb choice here. This is acquired in the Revelation Depths via an Umbral Belly. In terms of rings and pendants, our pendant of choice is the Pendant of Atrophy. This pendant allows us to continue to spam cast Umbral spells even when we've depleted our mana. This makes it very easy to spam enemies down with a barrage of Umbral devastation. The ring choices are also very straightforward. A Barrage route and a Puissance route provide us with increased damage to our sorceries, with the Barrage route removing 1 spell slot as a penalty, which leaves us with 4 instead of 5. This is completely workable and not a problem at all for this build. You can also double down on either ring, with Barrage route being the most desirable for those who want the highest DPS increase possible, and at the cost of 2 spell slots being removed. Speaking of spamming Umbral spells, our main source of range damage comes from Latimer's Javelin. This can be acquired from the Remembrance of the Hush Saint. This thing hits like an absolute truck and offers both single target and AoE damage output. I've seen this thing hit numbers of around 1.8k per throw, and I'm not even maxed out on damage stats, but from what I've read and seen, apparently this can hit up to around 2.5k if you have both your Radiance and your Inferno stats maxed out. This is in combination with the Pendant of Atrophy, and it makes it absolutely insane for anyone favouring the caster approach. It also works well in combination with melee attacks as a way to chip the mob's health and posture down before they even reach you. The second spell is Diminishing Missile, which sends a home homing projectile of umbral magic that debuffs an enemy by reducing their attack damage and their defenses. Another highly viable and useful choice here. Our third choice of spell is Umbral Agony. This fires a slow-moving orb of umbral energy that deals large chunks of damage to foes and takes huge chunks of stagger bars off. You can cast this at your enemy's feet or at walls nearby to ensure that it explodes, dealing solid AoE damage to multiple enemies. It's excellent for breaking stagger bars if you're the sort of player that likes to look to run in and finish enemies off with grievous strikes for those extra style points. Our fourth slot is flexible. I go with either Barrage of Echoes for extremely tasty burst damage or Painful Echo, which sends a bolt of umbral energy that bounces and chains between enemies. This is down to your personal preference, and I tend to swap between these two spells to keep things fresh. Now, I know a lot of you like to know how we complete the character looks, so in this case, I'm using the Grace of Adir Mask Helm, I'm using the Crimson Rector Armour, the Crimson Rector Leggings, and the Lord's Gauntlets, and all of these are coloured with the Sellsword Tinct. The mechanics of this build are very simple. Buff up with Bleed Salts, favourably position yourself, cast a Bolt of Diminishing Missile, and begin spamming whichever skills you see fit. Latimir's Javelin has excellent range and damage. The projectile also moves pretty quickly too, which makes this my most favoured choice. You can situationally use the other spells, and I usually throw a cast or two of Barrage of Echoes at my feet as enemies approach, with what is left of the HP and stagger bar then being melted. I then either dispatch them with a well-timed attack or administer a vampiric life-leeching Grievous Strike. The build can be played as a full caster or a combination of melee and caster, and both styles allow us to gain 90 HP per kill, which makes us very difficult to kill in return. It should be noted that this is not a tank build. It does rely on some finesse, especially if you're playing Lords of the Fashion and not maximising your armor statistics. So, there we have it folks, an undying umbral vampire to devastate and drain your enemies with a relentless barrage of umbral destruction and bloodthirsty life leeching. A massive thank you for the continued support you've been giving the channel. This interdimensional community is steadily increasing in size, and it's been great to see some of the same faces appearing in the comments. The comment section has been really insightful and constructive, and I'm really enjoying engaging with you. So, with that in mind, if you want to see more content of this nature, please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to support. Share this with your friends, put it wherever you want. It really does help the channel grow. So, until next time, take care of yourselves, enjoy the build, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.